Peace, beautiful souls. Okay, so the shadow work of, oh gosh, of us basically like owning up, like being honest about what it was that we needed when we were young Ren. And um, what's been coming up for me is, and also doing it without feeling guilt. A lot of us, me personally, trying to admit like what I didn't get when I was a young Ren, it was hard for me because like I I understand that my parents, our parents, have been through a lot of things. My parents were very young when they had me. They were only 17. And so I get that they were still, young Ren themselves. And they didn't have the best example from their parents. So what I always have done was like make excuses for them for the things that they did or for the things that they didn't do. So sitting with myself and letting myself really feel that, like, what did I need? What didn't I get, has always been hard for me. So one thing or a few things I realized I really needed more attention and physical presence, which is funny, and also physical touch, but safe, healthy physical touch. And it's like some of my love languages now are like quality time and physical touch, but it's so hard for me to receive the physical touch portion because I didn't have safe physical touch. Most of you already know, like, I was molested by my dad and by other people too. And then with my mom, we just weren't like a physical touch so much type of family. And then when I say physical presence, my dad was like in and out of jail. Then he was in prison for 7 years. Then when he got out, all of that other stuff started, at least as far as I can remember. Sometimes I wonder if like it started before, but who knows? That's another time. And then my mom also, had her times where she was in jail a few times, and then sometimes she just lived somewhere else, and me and my brother, lived with my grandparents. And still, like, one of the times, like when I was living with my grandma, that was one place where I did experience being molested by other people, not her, not my grandfather, but other people while I was in that home. And then with my grandma, she also wasn't really so affectionate unless she was drunk, and when she was drunk it was aggressive and just affection that I just didn't like, right? So for me, a lot of what I needed was physical presence, attention, and like more loving physical touch from the people that I loved, the people that took care of me. And then that's just a baseline, because there was a lot that I needed. And I realize I've been avoiding actually like answering this question. The question keeps coming up, but I haven't really sat with myself and felt what that felt like what it feels like to know that I needed those things and that I didn't have those things. Yeah, there's so many things too, like just popping in my head now thinking about it, and it makes me a little sad. But I was thinking to myself today when I was like brushing my teeth, and like I try to do a little mirror work when I do that, just like stare in my eyes and compliment myself and give myself some attention. And I was just thinking, like, everything we go through really sets us up for where we're meant to be in life, like in preparation. When I was thinking about that, it was something so different than this topic, but in general. And then reminding myself, like, what makes it easier to do the shadow work and sit with these feelings is just knowing that, like, I chose these things, I chose this life prior to coming here to help mold me into who I am, help put me in the pathway of my purpose, of my passions and things like that, and my goals and all that stuff. So again, that also helps me be graceful with my parents and those who were taking care of me, because I picked them. And everything literally happens for a reason. Everything is by design, very much so. And talking about this, I want to talk about the word spell of children. When you break down the etymology of those words, right? Ren is like almighty, benevolent being, powerful god, goddess, filled with love, all these things. And chilled, the etymology of that is like to make cold, to shock, to stun, to put in a box, to freeze, to scare. And so when you're putting those together, you're making this once benevolent, all-loving being, human being, divine being, now cold, scared, chilled, stuck in a box. And if you think about the way that people deal with kids, not everyone, but even in the school systems, when people usually get, molested and things like that, it's usually when they're really young, because they're trying to strip that away from, like, the innocence and the loving being away from us really young. And when I say there, ultimately it's all us. Like, we are the creator of the entire world, right? And we just made all these different experiences, right? So there's no one to actually get mad at here. And when I even say in other videos, like, the powers that be, it's still us, a part of the game that we created to live and to get out of the matrix. It's just a big giant game, So, but keeping that in mind when you're talking to your babies, some people still do, but I personally would never be calling them children, because they're not. To me, they're young Ren, and I want them to stay that way, And especially in this new earth we're creating, there will not be any more children. They will just be young Ren in their full divinity, their full love. But yeah, so if you would like to, if you got this far in the video, feel free to share in the comments, like, things you feel like you needed when you were a young Ren and growing up, and even things that you see that, like, it's still now that you need those things, And sometimes we can't get those things from our parents specifically anymore now in this adult age, but a lot of us, still go looking for that. And then it's something that we also have to, buenas tardes, we need to water ourselves with before we can actually get that healthily from another person, usually a romantic person. But not only, like, the families that we create, the friends we create, we want those things from them too, because we are worthy of those things, And but we first have to be able to give that to ourselves, to be able to healthily attract that from other people and align with other people who are in the capacity to give that to us, because they've also given it to themselves. You know what I mean? So yeah, feel free to share in the comments, or just whatever you want to say. But yeah, I love you. I'll see you later.